What's up guys, my name is Andy. We are running out of good driving weather and this weekend looks like it might be one of the last good days to drive, so I want to get the car out, get some seat time in it before the winter comes. And I figure while I do that, I get a lot of questions on my channel of things I've done, things you guys want to do, how to do something, and a lot of the same kind of questions. So I thought maybe what I could do is I could group those questions up and kind of put them in one video and see if I can help you guys out. Let's get the car fired up and get out on the road. So one of the questions that I get is, with my 347, would I do it again? Knowing what I know about this engine, would I change anything? Would I stick with the same exact build? Would I do a different engine builder? And the answer is mostly no. I'm happy with my build. I'm happy with the engine builder. He did a great job. I haven't had any problems. I want more power, but that's normal, right? The only thing that maybe I would change is I might have done the 363 stroker setup instead of the 347. I know those 363s are a little more high-strung and maybe you'd have a little bit shorter life on the engine, but I don't put a lot of miles in the car. I think the 363 would give me a little bit more power that I'm looking for without having to go into higher compression pistons and a wilder cam. So that would have been something that would have been nice to have, but that's okay. I'm happy where I'm at, and I would like to up the power a little bit on the road, but the cost would have been the same for the 363, well, close enough to the same, you know, due to the 363 versus 347, so that really wouldn't have been much of a difference. But at the same time, a very common build, very popular build, and a lot of people go this route, and so I know that it's safe, right? I can do this reliably and not have any issues. What about the mid-eye leaf springs, the 1-inch drop or the 2-inch drop, the reverse eye? That's a great question. That's a popular question. My thing is that it's easier to lower the car than it is to raise the car. If you do the 1-inch mid-eye leaf springs, it drops you down an inch. And if you want to go a little bit lower, you can do 1/2-inch lowering blocks or 1-inch lowering blocks to get you a little bit lower. But if you do 2-inch drop, or the reverse eye they call it, you're stuck with that 2-inch drop, and to raise the car, you'd have to do shackles in the rear, and I'm not a big fan of those. It was a thing that did, over the 60s, 70s. It's nothing new, but I'd rather try to get the car lower a little bit and then dial it in a little bit more if I need to. And that's what I got here. I've got the 1-inch mid-eye leaf springs with a 1/2-inch lowering block. Is the T5 transmission good enough? Yes, for most builds. If you're hard on your car and you're banging through the gears, you're going to tear it up. It's rated for 300 foot-pounds of torque. The stock engine in these cars don't make that, but a lot of people, add stuff to boost up the power. In this car, I'm making quite a bit more than that, so I could easily overpower this transmission if I was not kind to it. I don't drive that way, but I also don't drive that way partially because I don't want to beat up the transmission. And I would like to go to probably something like the TKX down the road. That's rated for 600 foot-pounds. It's a lot beefier setup. It's still a 5-speed, so I get that overdrive, which is perfect because I live out of town. The T5 will work for most people. It's mostly getting the the synchros, which is really nice for shifting, and then that overdrive gear. A lot of people like that and want that, and I'm with you on that. Another popular question I get is, what wheels and tires do I have? Some people think that the tires I have, they look really wide for what they are, and they're really not that wide. They're only 225 50 16s. I've got them on 16x7 wheels with a 4-inch back spacing or a 0 offset, if you guys are familiar with that setup on a wheel. And this is perfect for the aggressive look that I wanted to go with on this car, but I'm going to be doing larger brakes down the road, and so I'm going to have to up the wheel size, and these 16s aren't going to be enough, so I'm going to have to change that. And while I'm at it, I'll probably I'm going to put some wider tires on too. So why use a relay? Particularly, I got a lot of questions. I did a video on putting a relay to activate the electric choke. The big reason is I want to isolate my circuits, and I want to be drawing power through circuits that are designed to be drawing a lot of power. Now, in the case of the electric choke, it doesn't draw very much amperage at all to run that coil inside the choke. So you could run it off of a 12-volt source that you have when the car is on, and you'll probably be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. People have been doing that for decades. You'll be okay. But I wanted to have something that was isolated and a dedicated power source. So what I did is I set it up so that the relay gets triggered when the car is on, and then the power comes from the battery to run that choke. It's overkill, but it's nice having dedicated circuits and things isolated to certain spots. So if I have an issue, I don't have to start chasing down the wiring somewhere else in the car to find out why my choke isn't working. So a relay is a good way to isolate circuits and to give things dedicated power that might need that real good 12-volt source. And that kind of goes into another question I get is, why don't I show the electrical work that I do? Why don't I try to show like a little picture of the diagram of the wiring I'm going to do, particularly like of a relay, how I'm going to set that up, which way the wires go to which terminals. But really, wiring is boring, and I'd have to jump into story mode to get you guys to be entertained, because nobody wants to watch me crimp connectors and cut wires and splice things and run it underneath the dash. You'd maybe want to know where to run wires or what things to connect to, but wiring is just not exciting, and so I usually skip over that stuff. I'll give you enough info up front, and then we'll usually just cut to it being done. Another popular question I get is about the one-wire alternator. Is it truly one wire? And yes, it is. The ground, you can add a ground wire to the back of the alternator, which makes it technically a two-wire. The ground for the chassis of the alternator goes through the engine, because the way it's bolted to the engine, and my engine is grounded, so I'm covered there. Adding an extra ground wire would not hurt anything, but I don't need it. You guys can add it to your car. I don't need it in my setup. It is one wire, and what do you do with the leftover wiring? You can just leave it if you don't want to do anything. Some people are afraid to cut wires. They never know what's going to happen down the road. That's fair. You can unplug it from the voltage regulator that's mounted on the core support. You can just leave the wires there. You can take it all the way back into the dash and cut things off and tape them and stuff like that. I ended up rewiring this car with a whole wire harness from American Auto Wire. So that one, actually, you need to have a one-wire alternator with that American wire harness. And so I was already ahead of the step by having that in the car. And so all that wiring just goes away. But if you didn't have that American Auto Wire harness, you can just unplug everything from the stock alternator, just leave it sitting there. If that doesn't bother you, it's not going to hurt anything, it's not going to short out. Hook up your alternator and go. Another question I get a lot is about the Shelby drop, and does it lower the car? And then it gets followed up quickly with, it's not designed to lower the car. Yes, I understand that. There is a side effect of the front of the car getting lowered about 3/8 of an inch or so when you do the Shelby drop, particularly on the 64 to 67. That's a byproduct of the design. Now, the Shelby drop is designed to improve the handling, right? It improves the roll center of the car, makes the steering a little sharper. That's what we want. And by lowering those the upper control arm mounting point, it does in fact lower the car. I know that it's not the purpose of it, but it is a byproduct of that. And for people asking, it doesn't hurt anything, but it is something that you want to know, particularly if you're trying to dial in your car to a certain ride height, and you're going to be doing things like lowering springs or coilovers or whatever. I mean, coilovers are easier because you can dial in stuff, but if you are going to do the Shelby drop, just keep that in mind, that you will lose a little bit of height while you're improving the handling characteristics of your car. Oh boy. The gas filler neck thing that I've got on this car, that one, it's a very popular mod. It's that one where you can put the nozzle in the gas tube, and once it gets full, it doesn't splash back at you when you're filling up the car. It's one of those things that these cars should have had from the factory, but they didn't. That's okay. But I don't sell that piece. I don't even know the guy that makes it. I saw that on another YouTuber's channel, and I thought that was a great idea. So he put the contact information in his video. I got a hold of that guy that makes them, asked for one, I paid for it, didn't tell him who I was or what I was doing, put it on my car, made a video about it. I'm very happy with it. I would do it again if I had to. But I put the contact info for that guy in the very top of the description of the video for you guys to get access to him, to reach out to him and have him make one for you. You can order one. I don't sell them. I don't know the guy. I've never talked to him. He doesn't even know. Well, I don't know if he even knows I made a video for it. I don't know. It's not on my website. I would love to sell them, but I don't. So another question I get is, why don't I use the right tools? And guys, despite what you might think and you see in my videos, I don't have all of the money to buy all of the tools as much as I want to. I'm just like a lot of you guys. I just don't have the tools. Sometimes it comes down to I don't have the money to buy the right tools, so I use what I got, right? And that shouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, if you have a tool that does the job, that should be okay. Now, if there's a faster way to do it with the correct tool, or maybe, you know, you don't damage something, well, that's obviously a good reason to go get the right tool. But I use what I have, and unfortunately, and you can see it in some of my videos, I do not use the right tool out of sheer laziness. I will use the wrong tool to do something that I shouldn't do just because I don't want to go get up and get the right tool. So I need to be better about that. But I use the tools that I have, and when I need to buy a specialty tool, I do it, and I get it done. So sorry for all the guys out there that would love for me to have the right tool. I just don't have the funds for that. Oh, another one is a mistake that I might make in a video. They ask about why I did something a certain way, and that's throughout a lot of videos. I've either unintentionally made a mistake, or I thought I was doing something right and I did it wrong. I try real hard to capture that and give you guys a heads up about that. Sometimes it's not right away. I make a lot of these videos I kind of try to create a buffer so that I have time to wait for parts to show up so I can have a video coming out, you know, on a steady schedule. And so sometimes it takes a little bit to get a correction video out or whatever. If it's a real important thing, I would get it fixed right away. But again, if I do something that's a mistake and I don't know that it's a mistake, a lot of times you guys will point stuff out, and like anybody else, sometimes it's hard to admit that you're wrong, and there has been a handful of times when I've been wrong. And again, you know, having a platform like this to give out information, it's not a good position for me to be just telling you guys how to do something to your car without any care about the side effects of giving you bad info. So I don't intentionally do that. You know, one mistake that I made recently that I didn't put on video was I went to start the car the other day. I was out running some errands and started the car, and it immediately made this horrible, almost like a grinding sound. I should have turned the car off at that point, and I didn't. I tried to get the car home because I didn't want to leave it on the side of the road. I thought in my head, what it sounded like was maybe like the bearing on my alternator had gone out or something like that, where it was didn't matter what the RPM was, which that probably should have gave me a clue, but I thought the bearing on the RPM or the alternator went bad, but I could still run off the battery, keep the car going. I could get it home, I'd be fine, and it just sounded horrible. I didn't even make it home. I had to pull over and call the wife to come get me. But when I went to turn the car off, I bumped the key just a little bit right before I turned the car off, and the sound went away, and then the car turned off because I turned the car off. I had to think about that for a minute, about why would it do that? And so I tried to turn the car over, the car wouldn't start. And I wondered what's going on there. Why won't the car, none of the lights are on. In fact, right before I pulled the car over, the gauges were, like, particularly the tack gauge was all over the map. The gauges were not reading right. They were moving a bunch. And then I really should have just stopped the car. Pulled the car over, again, called the wife, and I was thinking about it. While I was sitting there, I couldn't get the car started, which I thought was weird. It wouldn't even start at all, but it was running just a minute ago or a second ago. I've got that breaker switch in the back on my battery, so I went back to check that to see if maybe I'd popped that, and sure enough, it was open, so I did pop that breaker. So I started thinking about it some more. I closed the breaker and got back in, and I opened the door to get back in, and the light was on. So, okay, cool. I didn't at least fry that. And I kind of think about it for a second, like, you know what, I wonder if it was the starter. And turned the car on, and it fired right up, no noise, you know, no bad noise like before. And I think what happened is the key got stuck in the start position on my tumbler here on the ignition switch. And I've had that happen one other time before, but I I kind of had my hand on the hand as I was doing that on the key. I mean, when I was doing that, so I was able to get it to the start position. Didn't think much of it, but now thinking back to that, that's what was happening. So my mistake was driving the car with the starter running the whole time. Didn't know what it was. I should have just turned the car off and stopped, because I was in a parking lot when I first started hearing that. That was an idiot move, guys. I make mistakes. I didn't put that in a video. Now it's in a video, right? But I didn't do what you should have done. I should have just stopped the car, turned the engine off, and tried to figure out what it was instead of trying to drive the car home. Thankfully, I didn't ruin anything. The sticker on the side of the starter is melted, because that thing was getting super hot. You guys know more than I do about the kind of amperage and stuff you're pulling. When that starter is continuing to run and run and run and run and run, now what the problem is take the RPMs, because the RPMs of the starter is not driving RPMs, right? It's not 2,000 RPMs. So now the starter's trying to run, and I'm forcing it to run by the engine RPMs. I mean, it was just not, it was not good. I shouldn't have done that, and it was a mistake, and I should have known better, but I do make mistakes. Another popular question that I get is, why don't I use the QuickJacks more? They're hanging up in my shop or my garage. Why don't I use them more? And to be honest, it's the setup time. They give me plenty of clearance. It's something like 21, 22 inches of ground clearance, right? When you get that thing lifted up all the way, which is great, you know, getting under the car, plenty of space. But to set them up and take them down, it just takes too long. And, you know, and a lot of times I'm doing something pretty quick, so I don't want to spend the time to set them up and then spend the time to take them down. So I'll just leave them on the wall and just use my floor jack and some jack stands. If I was going to do more of a long-term project where it's going to sit out for a while and I don't need to get to the middle of the car, then I could probably use the QuickJacks. That's another thing too, is access to the middle of the car. Because of where I picked the car up, I like to use the frame rails underneath the floor pans, not the pinch welds on the side of the car. And so that puts the floor jack, or those QuickJacks, closer together. There's less room in between them to get through. You know, I can set it up so I can get my creeper through there, but then I can't move around, and you feel very claustrophobic, and I don't like that at all. So getting to the middle of the car with those QuickJacks is kind of difficult. In fact, it would be the same on any car, except you typically have them spread it out far apart because you can pick the car up out on wider part of the car, so you have a little bit more room. But if you need to do work on the front or the rear of the car, there's plenty of space to get to everything, and so you'll be fine there. I just find that they just take too long to set up, which is silly, but I use them when I need them. So why do I not use fuel injection? Why do I not go to something like a Phytech or the Sniper, Holley Sniper, that kind of stuff? And to be honest, part of it is I like being able to tune the carb. Now I still have a long ways to go before I would call myself any kind of, not even a master. I mean, I'm still new to this kind of stuff. But I like being able to dial that stuff in. And then there's a lot of people that still want to run their car, and there are lots and lots of videos out there. I'm not really making a dent in the world about, you know, tuning a car, but I do like being able to provide that information to you guys and try to help out for the people that want to keep their car. I can totally recognize the advantages of, you know, fuel injection with fuel economy and, you know, running in, you know, more of that stoichiometric mixture and stuff like that. All that stuff makes sense, but I kind of like running a carb, and you know, I kind of like the bumps and bruises that come along with that. You know, it helps with the learning part of this whole hobby. And kind of the last one that I save, it's more for my website than my videos. I get a lot of questions about why is shipping so expensive, and this is mostly for the international guys. For the guys in the United States, shipping is not really that expensive, relative, I guess. First, guys, I don't dink with the shipping charges. They are what they are. I use Shopify as my website, and I can get a discount from shipping through that website, but I don't set the prices. It's based off of the package weight, the package size, and then the shipping distance. So for some of you guys that are overseas, I'm not going to make it cheaper. That's not fair to me to take money off the price. Whatever it costs is what I have to pay. You see the same number I see, and you know, I don't ship enough items to qualify for additional, you know, discounts. You know, I could go to UPS or FedEx or DHL or whatever and and try to make my argument to get a discount on shipping, but I'd have to prove it by the number of packages I ship, and I don't ship thousands of packages. I don't even ship hundreds of packages a month. I mean, so I don't ship enough to qualify for those big discounts that a lot of retailers get so they can make their shipping cheaper. I apologize, guys. There's nothing I can do for that. I'm a small fish in a big pond. I do appreciate the folks that do, order my stuff, particularly when you live overseas and you know, sometimes shipping is more money than the item that you're buying. And I want to give you guys a big thanks for, you're doing it to support me. I'm sure there's a lot of these parts you can get in your country, and you guys choose to buy stuff from me, and that supports me and helps me out, and I do appreciate that, and I don't get the chance to say thank you often enough. And so again, guys, thank you guys for everybody, and not just the overseas guys, the local guys too. It does help with my channel and my build and my project, what I'm doing, and it puts me in a spot to do more parts, more videos. And then even it turns into more parts that I can sell for you guys. Some people want the parts that I have on my car, and I try to sell some of those parts for you, and it works out for both of us. So guys, I just wanted to do a video. I wanted to get the car out to drive. It's such a nice day. These days are numbered for the rest of this year. I wanted to take advantage of that and get the car out. And I figured I could answer some of the more popular questions while we're doing it and get a 2-for-1 deal, right? So anyways, all right guys, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out. And we'll see you in the next one.